Hi, my name is Evan Levy and I'm the founder of Healey Magnetics. The company is named after my father's car, a 1965 Austin Healey English Roadster. My dad was an electrical engineer at Lockheed Martin and was instrumental in developing Hellfire laser-guided missile systems. He received a patent that dealt with optical guidance, and this technology changed weapon systems forever. I inherited the ability to analyze, diagnose, and repair things from my father. At a young age, I played with electronic parts. I built a crude motor, a calculator, and I took apart gas engines. In high school, I learned to drive a manual transmission on this Austin Healey. And when the rings started to go bad and burn oil, my brother and I rebuilt the engine. Like my father's contribution to weapon systems, our company, Healey Magnetics, is developing groundbreaking technology that will lead to entirely new electromagnetic systems with astounding capabilities. The mission is to revolutionize energy projection through advanced coupling technology, delivering unprecedented efficiency gains that accelerate the global transition to sustainable power generation. The ability to transfer kinetic energy without physical contact is the basis of our technology, and I wanted to take you through the origin and development of my concept and tell you about the exciting new discoveries that are in place for Healey Magnetics at the forefront of the next generation of motor design. So most of the illustrations of motors on the internet are not actually accurate. They show a north and a south magnet, and that's not actually the case. The magnets there's no such thing as a unipolar magnet. So when they're polarized, the material is polarized, axial through the magnet material. These would have a north and a south face and a south and a north face, which would be a more accurate depiction. And here you see concave magnets with a inside armature, and this is how most designs of early motors worked. And it had a commutator ring. You would put energy in and it would spin the middle one. So the newer technology came out with brushless motors, which essentially created a system where instead of the armature spinning or through the magnetic field, the magnets spin around the armatures, changing field. And this is done by an electronic control unit. And so you can either have an internal motor with the magnets on the inside spinning, or you can have an external motor with the external magnet spinning. And if you remember what I said was these are not accurate. These should all both have a north and south. So there's an exterior field that's spinning around here too. And this is kind of the idea of my concept, is that you would have these armatures connected to an electronic control unit. It could be both the armature and the motor, but the magnets would spin. And these outside magnetic fields would couple with other fields. My early original prototype, kind of wanted to use these rectangular magnets that I got a hold of, and they were really pretty powerful. And so this original prototype had just, them connected by this little angle right here, which I had noticed when I was doing like kind of iron filings and initial understanding of kind of where I was going with all this, that this was a very strong point of connection. But I wanted them to rotate with these outside faces being planar, but I also wanted them to have an armature in the center. And so I came up with the idea of making a planar concave magnet shape. And so when things are axial polarized and they have this fringe effect, what's going on is that at these edges, there's a denser fringe field. And especially, when you put these magnets at a 60-degree angle, this field strength right here gets really strong. And so these are some of the planar concave magnets in an array. And at these nodes, you can see this is magnetic viewing film, and you see this projection of a high flux density field at this area. So So here's the part of my design where you'd have the armatures inside the rotating um, magnets, and this would create current, or you could have these be um, motors and spin these, and a system where they could act as motors and generators was right kind of where what I was getting at. And this could be used in regenerative systems and power generation and a whole host of other things that I'll talk about later in the video. So I got a patent, and if you notice, here's some different architectures, and I explored possibilities of other architectures where all of these arrays were counter-rotating. And this phenomena is important because counter-rotating systems kind of negate the precession of a single rotating physical object. And so what's occurring at the when my rotors spin is that there's a strong degree of connection at these nodes, and then as it spins, it connects. These are axial polarized, and the perpendicular fields would connect, and there would be not as strong. So it would be a weak field interaction and then a strong field interaction as these spin. So I designed some different prototypes, and what happened was I after years I was getting frustrated. I was meeting with engineers and people that were and gaining knowledge, but investors were skeptical. So I posted a video on the web about 2.5 years ago, and it went viral with like 325,000 views, and and people were all over the place, and a lot of people contacted me. But one of the things that they wanted to know was the coupling strong enough? And what I did realize was that our coupling, because of the planar company magnet shapes, was really, really strong. And so I designed the system where you could put the coupled systems, and this is one center rotor connected to a AC motor with generators all around it, and spin this. And this is where architecture where there's one in the center and you have three around it. And what I noticed when I started to test this is, and you can see this happening, is that the RPMs, I put a fixed amount of voltage in the center AC motor, and you notice what happens is that the voltage, the RPM start at 1145, and then about 3 minutes later they go up to 1400, and then 3 minutes later they go up to 1690. So there's almost a 600 degree change in 600 RPM change from without any additional voltage. And you can see the volts from the generators increase as the speed increases. And this happened the same with this architecture where there's one in the center and three around it. And this one I spun at 5,600 RPM. And I've had this actual system right here spun close to 20,000 RPMs, and it got really scary and dangerous, and it just acted really strange at that speed. So I had people from all over the world contact me, and so I had about 4 or 5 people fly in and try and witness this in real life, and they all came away, and they're still contacting me in some ways or another. But one guy came in, he's an electrical engineer, and he set up resistors in the system. And so we turned the machine on, and the machine sped on. We added a resistor. The RPM would drop, of course, because you were adding resistance and pulling amps from the machine. And then what would happen is that it would recover, and it would go back, the RPM would go back, and we would add another resistor, and the same thing kept occurring. So this was intriguing way of thinking about capitalizing on the system, that you could sort of sip current and charge a battery and create electricity from the kinetic, like this is like kind of a mechanical battery that it would spin, and and you could take energy off of it. And so one of the things about my system is that they were always kind of a 1-to-1 ratio, and I thought, well, if it's going to act like a magnetic gear, that there needed to be an additional ability to have like a step gear where you'd have like a potential ratio of 2 to 1 or 6 to 1 or 10 to 1, and you have a big flywheel and it would spin planetary arrays around it. And I have a pending patent on this technology. And so I actually developed a small prototype right here where you can see these rectangular magnets. And if you notice, because of this gap right here, the fringe effect is in effect, and it projects this strong connecting point with the planar concave magnet arrays here. So a couple of weeks ago, I had mathematicians and physicists and electrical and mechanical engineers all really interested, but investors were skeptical. And so, they wanted proof. And so, you need more money to actually do the kind of testing that you need to validate these things. So I came up with the idea. I just, out of the blue, I heard about Anthropic's new version of Claude, and I plugged it in, and I started to prompt it to analyze the fringe effect, and it just started to spit out like amazing amounts of material and do mathematical analysis. And I just wanted to show you some page views because it kind of starts to validate some of my ideas. And so, the approach is architectural. It's not improving just the components like better magnets or anything like that. It's changing the topology and architecture. And this would have multiple improvement mechanisms that multiply the efficiency. And so so Claude says, this is all prompts that Claude, like I didn't put these prompts in, it's just Claude came up with it. And why this matters behind our company is that, electric machines use a lot of energy. And, if you get market penetration, you reduce that energy if you have something more efficient. And like I said, it did this rigorous analysis, and it says, this is not one big improvement. It's independent mechanisms that kind of multiply the advantages, and it goes to name them, and it has the proof of concept and efficiency gains at each one of these possibilities. And the final word was that we have this complete, like hundreds of pages that Claude produced, and it has like pages of equations and the physical understanding and business strategy and all this stuff in a white paper for investors. And it ends by saying this technology is sound, that physics checks out, the market exists. And it says, good luck with Healey Magnetics. You're working on something genuinely innovative that can make a real difference in global energy efficiency. Go change the world. Now, this might be massaging my ego, but all the equations were validating, and it goes over this conclusion about breakthrough physics, and then it has all of these references that it did. So then I asked for a assessment for investors. What's the value of my company? Because that was always hard to establish because it was just a concept. It wasn't really a machine that said, oh, well, this works better than anything out there. I sort of suspected it could, but we needed validation, and then we have this validation, and then it values the company. And this is Claude AI, but possibly $500 million company, $200 million. Then I, kind of work with Claude's competitor GROK, and I put all the kind of stuff in there. It didn't do all the equations and do as extensive a job as Claude, but it came up with a valuation of my company between $500 million to $1 billion, and possibly over $5 billion. And and then I asked Claude recently, Claude, your neural networks and the amount of energy that it takes to run AI is going to consume almost half of our current electricity production in our country. And could this be useful? And this is its conclusion. It's like, it did an economic value of Healey Magnetics and the AI infrastructure. Like it's encouraging me to give it more energy. And so it says that, AI is a killer app for Healey Magnetics, and why would they invest? And you can sort of see all these possibilities. So our mission is to revolutionize energy production, and the applications are vast for and I don't even go into some of the things. It could be a pump compressor, regenerative systems, aerospace kind of things, because it's non-contact kinetic energy transfer. And so we are working with some accelerators, and we determined with AI's help that the funding required for our next level of investment is $8 million, and this is going to be used for product development, prototype testing, team expansion, patents, which are going to be very expensive, and there's a lot of them to get in this field to create the kind of moat that will keep competitors away. And so we discussed kind of an idea that we would give 12% stake in undiluted shares, and for that $8 million. So investors, if you're interested in the ride of a lifetime, this is a sweet car, a sweet company, Healey Magnetics. Thank you for watching.